Max Gaw, Melbourne Football Club. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
This is Nat Fyfe from the Fremantle Footy Club.
Trent Cotchin from the Richmond Footy Club.
Scott Pendlebury from the Collingwood Football Club. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
Patrick Cooch from the Carlton Footy Club.
It's Rory Sloane here from the Adelaide Crows.
This is Tom Mitchell. You're listening to the Coaches Panel.
Hello friends, it's MJ from the Coaches Panel. I hope you're well, and for the final time for your 2023 fantasy footy season, welcome to a strategy roundtable. Whether you play Dream Team, AFL Fantasy or SuperCoach, we hope over the next few moments we hopefully help you in your final round, whether it be a grand final league battle or you're chasing some kind of overall rankings success. You're joined by a couple of the members of the panel. They're going to help you get you through this final 9 games of fantasy footy for 2023. Joining me on this episode, as he has not just right throughout this season, but ever since we began the Coaches Panel. You know him as Rids. He also is known amongst the community as the hater of hair in the fantasy footy community. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. I had a haircut.
Hey, look at you getting around. He's also
Have we given away his secret identity?
No, no. We don't do that. We all go by fake aliases, mate.
No, he's Corns. He's Corns.
Yeah, we don't explain. Yes. You've already heard him, not only in this episode, but right throughout 2023. If it's not been here, it's been somewhere else. We've loved having him as a part of the Coaches Panel in 2023. You'll hear him lots next year and many more years to come. The Harry Sheezel of the fantasy footy community, the MVP himself, MiniMonk. How are you, my friend?
It's the last pod you can say that, right?
Yeah.
Then he's no longer a rookie, and then I'm no longer a rookie.
You'll hit the second year blues. So just watch yourself, mate. It could go, unless we go Clayton Oliver and we go for a second year breakout. That's okay. Boys, there's a ton of stuff I do want to get through with you. Of course, some Patreons have sent in their questions. If you want to become a Patreon during the off season, the good news is there's plenty of exclusive content rolling for you until we get to January 1 and the 50 most relevant. All the details to join our Patreon supporter group you can find as a link in the description of this podcast. But like I said at the top of the episode, boys, 9 games to go. Dream Teamers and Super Coaches, let's be honest, if you've got a trade left, not only are you certainly using it this week, but you probably don't have one. But anyway, what I wanted to do is kind of go game by game. And for coaches that either have trades, looking to place loopholes, a 23rd premium, a 24th option, there's lots of stuff. I'd love to break each game into 4 categories and get your advice on it. These are the categories I'd go for. A player in match by match that you really would like to buy, a player you're happy to trade into in whatever capacity it is. A keep option, someone that you're like, you know what? I've got someone in this game. I'm really happy to hold on to them. This matchup, something about them with these two teams I love. Then there's the sell, a guy that if you have the opportunity to move out of for whatever variable reason, whether it be to upgrade off, to get off the bad matchup, whatever it is. And then the last one is avoid. I think you could take that in 2 ways if you'd really like to. The avoid, where you'd hate to avoid coming up against him as a unique, or the avoid of I want no part of having this player given the matchup. So maybe we'll go kind of matchup by matchup, or game by game is probably a better way to say it. We'll start with you, MiniMonk. In the first game of the round, Friday night, Essendon Collingwood at the MCG. Give me your buy, your keep, your sell, and avoid for fantasy footy in the final game or final round of 2023.
I think there's one that a lot of coaches are buying up as a buy, and I think he's gone a bit under the radar this week. It's Josh Dacos. I'd really want to have a piece of him this week. If you're a draft owner and you've got a grand final and you've got Josh Dacos, and you're laughing, it's a good matchup. A keep, keep it simple. Someone like Zach Merritt. Nice and simple. A sell, Darcy Cameron. Ooh. Cox back in. Bad matchup against Draper. Could be looking to move him on. And an avoid, if you don't want to go in unique, I say avoid Jordan De Goey.
Okay. Nice. We'll always, Rids, you'll get the next game, but a right of reply, anything you'd like to challenge, correct, or add on with those players shared by MiniMonk?
No, I think they're all pretty much, they're all right on the money. So I mean, I'd probably say Parrish over Zach Merritt, only because Zach Merritt's just, he's been an absolute superstar for so long. And I don't know, I just feel like Darcy Parish has that really big game, massive. And there's a lot riding in this game for him. That's the only one I would probably throw on.
Oh, yeah. There's either an extra year in a contract or an extra 50 or 100K from an opponent that might be coming his way. So I think that's a good shout. Let's go staying at the MCG, but the first Saturday afternoon game. Hawthorn at home against Fremantle. Rids, your buy, your keep, your sell, and your avoid.
So the buy's obvious, Radio. It's Mr. Ryan and the Fremantle backline. I think it's pretty much he's coming fast in the groupthink of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's becoming very popular. Let's just say that.
Yep.
So what was the second one? Keep?
The keep, yeah. So you've already got someone in this match, yep. Who are you hoping to hold on to?
I'd probably want to keep James Sicily, believe it or not, in this matchup.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy into him, but I don't want to trade out of him. So let's just keep him.
All right. The sell is interesting. Oh, avoid or sell. Go whichever you like.
No, I want to go the avoid.
He's building tension.
Because really, this one flips into the sell.
Ooh.
The person you want to avoid is Finn McGuinness. Really, for the life of me, I really don't know who it is. It's Brayshaw, it's Sarong, it's one of them.
Mm.
I think I'm leaning towards Sarong, only because Sarong's been proven to be, I wouldn't say he's dodgy to a tag.
More impacted.
I think he's actually, the fact that he can be tagged means that he's not getting the ball to his teammates as well.
Sure.
I do think that actually makes a lot of sense to me to tag someone in the coalface. And we saw Finn McGuinness go 2 weeks ago to Libba, and then last week he went to Oliver.
Mm.
He's the guy that I think he's probably going to, because that's part of what Hawthorn is doing, is educating him to do that sort of role against that inside mid.
Yep, that's fair enough. So you sell then?
So the sell is Caleb Sarong.
Yep.
And I mean, there is a caveat. It could easily be Brayshaw. It could easily be anyone who absolutely starts on fire. But this guy is the real deal, Finn McGuinness. So we just got to be very, very, very wary whenever you're playing Hawthorn from now on.
It certainly seems that way. Any challenges or right of replies, MiniMonk, before we move to the next game?
I might also throw up and consider Hayden Young as a buy for last round. Because if Sarong or Brayshaw is going to get the tag, there's someone that's going to need to step up in that midfield. And if it's a contested game, it's going to be Sarong. He's been building his score the last few weeks on tackles. And I have a feeling that both these teams are going to go at it hard for a round 24 showdown.
All right, fair enough too. Let's head to the next of our Saturday games. North Melbourne versus Gold Coast. MiniMonk, you know the 4 categories by now, my friend. Buy, keep, sell, avoid. Walk us through who you got.
I mean, we're going to go into the round 24 and have a bit of fun. Let's trade in the namesake. Harry Sheezel.
Yes!
Harry Sheezel is a buy.
Good man.
With no Jack Zeeble in that team and with no Luke McDonald in that team either, he should have an absolute field day.
Yeah.
I think the keep for this game, I'm going to say Noah Anderson.
I like that.
Noah Anderson is a keep. A sell for this game? I think it's a trickier one. Let's go. Oh, I got the easy one. LDU, not playing.
It's fine.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And the avoid, Taron Thomas.
Yeah, okay. All right. Some good names there. Rids, challenge, right of reply, something he's missed?
No, I would also throw out the same lines. Sell Jack Zeeble, please, people that bought into him last week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good shout. It's fair enough too. Brisbane and St Kilda Reds, talk us through right at the top of the tree. Who you buying into, mate?
I'm going to buy into but only because I like him, okay?
Come on.
And that's Wanganeen Malera.
Oh, okay. You'll get your turn, MiniMonk. Don't worry. All right. Why NVM?
I just like the way he plays. I don't know. I like watching the guys I own in fantasy at times. We've said this for years, yeah. You just buy into people that you like to watch. This guy is so silky. He uses the ball well. He gets all the kick-ins these days. Like, he's just a nice guy to actually own. And he's a good young talent. And what it does do is, by having that one game of watching him live whilst you're owning him, it gives you a bit of perspective whether you want to buy into him next year or the year after as a fantasy player.
No, it's very, very true. Look, if it wasn't for Nick Dacos's dominant year this year as a second-year player, I think we'd all be falling over ourselves at just how good the elevation of Nazaya has been this year. It's been fantastic. All right, Ritz, who are you keeping in this matchup of Brisbane and St Kilda?
I'm going to keep Jack Steele. Nice. I don't want to trade out of him, but I don't want to trade into him. It's a really tough matchup to really look at. So I want to keep him.
Yep, I like it. And then you sell and avoids for this matchup.
Okay, this is going to be a controversial sell.
Oh, I love these.
Okay.
Good setup.
But it's going to be Rowan Marshall.
Oh. Okay.
I hate that matchup for rucks. I really do. But now that Jack Hayes is in there is real potential that we could see Rowan Marshall end in a vest. We could see him manage throughout the game for large chunks.
Yep.
Because they do have finals waiting in a week's time, like in 2 weeks' time. So if we didn't have that break next week, there's a fair chance Rowan Marshall might not even be playing this game of football. That's how important he is to St Kilda.
I agree with that. Well, we've seen that with Max King not playing this week for that exact reason. So that makes sense. So who's your sell then? Ritz or avoid? You've just told me your sell. Who's your avoid?
My avoid is Kitty Coleman. Now, this might be a little bit controversial.
MiniMonk's going to have a load. Here we go. Yep.
Because he just is the type of guy that really, really, every time I buy into this guy, and I love him, you know that I bought into him last year. He was a great buy at the time, and he actually went well. Yep. But every time I seem to actually jump in on this guy, it always ends up in flames. He always gets subbed out of a game, or something happens, or he limps off. And for those people who have owned him, I have never seen a guy seem to cop a knock to his knees and he limps off the ground at some stage through the game as much as Kitty Coleman. It looks like he's done a hammy for the whole game. Like it's just a very awkward sit and watch candidate.
Understandable. All right, MiniMonk, you've not scoffed, but you've reacted a couple of times, hoping for some names or some names said. What's your challenge or right of reply on any of those two teams that we've just walked through there?
My right of reply would be that my buy would have been Kitty Coleman.
Oh, okay. Talk us through that, because I agree with Rids in a concept, but I think I know where you're heading. So talk us through why it could be an avoid and a buy all at the same time.
The really good thing about Kitty is he has actually got quite a good ceiling, especially at the price tag that he's at.
Sure.
And that he plays fairly early on in the round as well, which is a nice thing to have if you're wanting to be able to loop him at, say, D7, or if you've copped a Doherty and you're wanting to open up a bit of cash for your second trade as well. He comes up against, the best matchup for people playing off the halfback flank this week.
Yep.
And he is the one who's getting the distribution role with no Rich in the team.
Yep. Devastated. No Harris Andrews mentioned from either of you boys, but that's fine. I'll just sit on my own a little with him. Talk us through the cats and the doggies, MiniMonk. You know the four: the buy, the keep, the sell, the avoid. This is an interesting game for me. It feels like a lot of people will be putting a captaincy or a vice captaincy play in this matchup.
Yeah. Oh, this is a tricky one. This is a very tricky one. Let's go for a bit of fun with the buy. Let's buy Jack Bowes.
Wow.
No Mitch Duncan in the team.
Yeah.
No Mitch Duncan in the team. Coming up against the Dogs at a friendly matchup down at GMHBA.
Yeah.
And I reckon the Cats will play a bit of chip to chip.
Yep.
Sub 500k defender.
In AF, yeah.
Has the potential to go 100.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't mind a bit of that.
Okay. Nice.
Sell, take your pick between McRae and Bailey Smith.
A Dogs forward, sure. Yep.
Yeah, Dogs forward. Keep Tom Stewart.
Amazing matchup
Ever
on
reliable.
paper, isn't it? Amazing matchup,
Ever
amazing
reliable, Tom
location, everything. Yes.
And I think the avoid is Adam Treloar.
Oh, okay. I've heard a lot of, scuttlebutt in the community that this is the week you want to trade into Treloar. Why are you thinking it might be the week to avoid?
Just have this feeling that Chris Scott might just see what he can get out of Mark O'Connor as a tagging role this week. And if you're going to tag someone in that midfield, tag the player that went off the chain and that you can tag. And that's Adam Treloar.
Yep. That's fair, Rids. Any reflections or right of reply you'd like to have a go on those teams?
I'm thinking Libba would be the guy that would be susceptible to a tag this week.
Yeah, it's very possible. We saw that the other week before he went out injured with the concussion. Absolutely. Yep.
But I've got the fun game next, so I don't want to dwell. I want to get to the fun game.
All right. Adelaide and West Coast, Rids. We'll work it through line by line. I think a lot of teams' success in the round is going to depend on a couple of players in this one. So who are you buying into?
This one is very obvious. It's Shannon Hearn.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of hype, a lot of groupthink around Tex Walker, and really it has to be, rightio. But I think Shannon Hearn is the real one here.
Mm-hmm.
There is every chance that Tex kicks 10 goals and scores 160 points this game.
Again,
and Shannon Hearn still outscores him by 20 points. That's how much ball he's going to see in that back line.
Yep, I agree. And again, the beauty of a DPP, for AFL Fantasy, I think there's maybe less than 10,000 between them too. So if you've got a Sheasel type in the back line, it's a very easy play, or a Zeeble or something like that. So, yep, I don't mind that as a shout. Talk me through who you're keeping in this matchup, Rids.
I'm keeping Matt Crouch, and I might have mentioned his name a few weeks ago before he became a thing, but he's actually been very good.
Very good.
So I want to keep him because I tend to be thinking that Dawson's going to be pushing back a little bit more than playing midfield.
Okay.
And I think Matt Crouch is going to see a lot of ball, and he's got a bit of a point to prove.
Yeah, much like who you talked about, Darcy Parish, where he's, as a free agent, opportunity for contracts, multiple clubs chasing him. I think that's a fair shout. Sell. Who are you selling in this matchup?
I think I'm selling Liam Duggan.
Yeah. Is that Hearn affected?
Yeah, I just think everything's going to go through Hearn this game. It's his last game. He's a club legend. They're just going to go through him. They're going to send him on his way. You know what I mean?
Yep. And then who are you avoiding in this matchup?
I'm going to avoid the worst running gate in the AFL called Riley O'Brien in this game.
It's a fair shout.
Yeah.
It's a fair shout.
The running gate or just in general?
Oh, both.
Okay, both. All right. I like that. MiniMonk, any thoughts on
much
this?
as I like, I was just going to explain Rob.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
I've owned him in in years gone by and everything else. He's just an ugly guy to own, rightio.
You never feel confident, do you?
Well, you're a supporter. You're an Adelaide Crows supporter. How much does it frustrate you to see him get his hands on a mark and hold it for 3/4 of the amount of required time just to let it go. Like,
he's a very almost guy a lot of the time. There are moments where it all comes together beautifully, but he's a lot of almost with Rob.
And I think Bailey Williams will jump all over him as well. And I just don't know whether this is as I know that the Rucks is a very friendly against West Coast.
Yes.
But for a Riley O'Brien type, I just don't see it.
Yeah, no Thilthorpe in this game, so definitely it seems like the club will very happy to let him ruck around the game, that's for sure. So, yep, I don't mind that shout. A right of reply on those matchups or thoughts there, MiniMonk?
Yeah, I think I agree with the buy. I would also throw Tex into there as Ritz talked about, but I think that Hearn is a fine option as well. Both are very similarly priced. I do really like Crouch for this matchup as well. Yeah. So, yeah, I'd throw him into the keeps. For the sells, I'd consider selling Tim Kelly if you're an owner.
Yep. Yeah, Crows
if the Eagles are going to play
too. Yeah.
If the Crows are going to be bombing it forward for Tex and the Eagles are going to be playing chip to chip in the back line, there's not going to be much inside ball for someone like Tim Kelly.
No, that's a good shout. And Tim's been, from a draft perspective, fantastic return for people this year. He's definitely been probably the most reliable Eagle that we've been able to have so far this year. Port and Richmond, MiniMonk, is a fascinating game that we'll get to. What's going to happen with these guys? Early game, interesting spots. Port, a terrible matchup on paper for Richmond players. But by then, we'll mostly know the shape of the 8, especially if Brisbane win. What is your players you'd like to talk us through?
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
I might start with the sell on this one because I think this is the easiest sell of the week if you have the option.
Okay.
It's Jaden Short.
Yeah.
If you own Jaden Short, you are getting off ASAP.
It's not a pretty matchup.
I think the buy from this one is probably Zach Butters if you don't own him. He's pushing for a Brownlow. He's in contention. He might just try and go out there and get another 3-vote game and just have that fly in round 24 rather, to see if he can win it.
Yes.
I think the keep is Tim Taranto.
Yeah, okay.
He's not been great the last month, but he's not been that bad. And yes, Porter's a tough matchup, but he could still get a bit of ball and it'd be very hard to justify trading out of him.
Yeah.
And I think the avoid for this game, let's just go nice and simple. I think it's avoid just any of the ruckmen in this game. Don't go near Nank, don't go near Soldo, don't go near Vizentini. Just don't go for a ruckman. It's probably going to be a pretty bruise-free game.
It wouldn't shock me again. Like I said, by Sunday, I know a lot of people were hoping, certainly from an AFL and from a viewership perspective, were hoping it to be a really critically big one. But let's be honest, it all hangs on the final game of the year. That Carlton GWS game pretty much tells us everything we need to know. Rid's a right of reply on your Tigers and the pair. Anything you'd like to say about this game?
I would probably say I would like to hold Short. Okay. Because he's going to have a lot of ball down his end of the ground.
Yep, that's a perspective. Yep.
I would actually be almost interested in selling Taranto for this matchup.
Okay.
Only because it creates a nice, unique head-to-head matchup, because he is a hard sell. Like, he is a hard trade, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're going to he's not exactly flushed with cash. Who are you trading into? La da la la la. It is a hard trade. So it would be nice though if you're in the grand final and your opponent's got Taranto, and if you've avoided a few of the bullets, let's say the Dohertys and a few others along the way, it would be a nice, probably interesting matchup to have a unique head-to-head, because really he's not going to go. I don't see him going over 100.
Sure.
So, and he's definitely not going to go a monster 100 in this matchup.
Yeah, he did a 145 in AFL Fantasy at the start of the year against Port Adelaide, but that was a very different team scenario, set of form, matchups. A lot of different variables there. I agree.
So you might remember, MJ, a couple of probably 8 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, I probably called out that Taranto shouldn't be a captain option anymore.
Yeah, that was just after the bye. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So this is even more so this week. I just don't see him as that. I don't think Richmond's going to have enough of the ball to actually give him enough +6s, and there's not going to be many +4s in this game. So it's a real tough matchup for him to score big.
Yep. I'm interested on that. Like, there are some decent forwards available in that match that you might not own, and in the coming couple of matchups. You've got a Butters and a Rosie. Again, I know a lot of people own them, but there are some that don't have that from a separation. Goulden, the same. A lot of people own him, but he's not everywhere. Especially if you're focused on league matchups, you've got a Cornelio through there, and then you've got all the crazy uniques. Again, not saying Cornelio's the player to trade into, but in terms of if you're trying to create some separation in your grand final league matchup, you can, as Rid said, trade out of Taranto and still have options on those final 6 teams. Let's get to the second last game of the round. At the SCG, Sydney and the D's. Who you got for us first?
Rids, this is all you, buddy.
This is you, mate. He's too busy fixing his hair. Come on, PB. Give us your best.
Me?
Yes, you, mate.
Didn't I just go with Port and... Oh, no, I didn't. I just...
No.
Yes. No, you're right. You're 100% right. Sorry.
No,
I
you're
started
fine.
talking about as if I was answering the question
That's all right.
the first time.
I don't mind it. Give us your personal best.
Look, I'm old. I forget stuff. Okay,
That's fine.
So what am I doing again?
You're giving me in the Sydney and Melbourne game. If you could buy anyone, who are you buying?
Max Gawn.
Talk me through that one. Okay, yeah, it's obvious.
No need to. Just go next. Okay. It's Max Gawn.
Yeah, it's fair.
And is that your Marshall trade? Is that what you're thinking, Rids? If you are trading out of Rowan?
Yeah,
Yes.
I reckon I am.
Okay, all right. I feel like I'm getting to this end of the season with Rids. All right, who are you keeping from this matchup?
Oliver.
Good. I like that. Don't mind it. Who are you selling?
But don't forget, like, especially in AFL Fantasy, okay, people would have bought into Oliver last week.
Copped the 60.
And then copped 60. So they would be very much contemplating trading out of him.
But surely they knew the tag was coming from Finn. I mean, surely. Like, I know you could argue something else, but surely.
Like, so let's just say AFL Fantasy, okay?
Yes.
Because it's a long hold if you held him in any of the other formats, okay?
Well, I think a lot of people traded after the last 4 week stint. They might have held him for the 6 to 7 weeks, but the last 4 weeks, they definitely jumped off.
But I saw this groupthink started to pick up momentum halfway through last week, where people were trying to find other options besides Oliver to be tagged in that matchup. It just, and I've saw Trent Rivers mentioned. I saw Christian Salem mentioned. I saw, there's a whole heap of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's just the obvious, yeah?
Yep.
He went to Libba the week before, who was the guy that was inside. He was always the most important Melbourne player outside of Petrarca, who's playing deep forward at the moment. Like, it just had to be either Oliver or Viney, didn't it? It couldn't be anyone else.
I totally agree. And again, no disrespect to Jack Viney, But Clayton's the guy you're going to have a crack at trying to shut down. So I think it's fair.
In a perfect world, it also gives Sam Mitchell a chance to see what Finn McGuinness can do against the Clary Oliver type as well.
Yeah, because he is a very different inside bull compared to some of the others. Like what he can do on the outside and his spread he's incredible to watch live, what he does around the ground. I agree with that, mate. Who are you selling in this matchup? This one's interesting to me.
Petrarca.
Yeah.
I'm selling Petrarca. I've just about had enough of Petrarca. Seriously, the guy is one of the greatest players, but if he doesn't have that predominant midfield pushing forward, he's starting deeper forward, pushing into the midfield at times. It's a very awkward one, and we all know that it's not the way it really works for him. He's not the type, and this is what I was saying a couple of months ago, was people were saying that he should be playing as a forward to try and, at the time, Melbourne were having struggles with goals, if you remember.
I do.
And people were saying but he doesn't actually kick his goals doing that sort of role. It's how he works into the forward line and finding space, and that's how he actually kicks his goals. It just never really aligned. And so, yeah, I'll be selling out of him. And the other one you really need to sell, if you still own him, I do apologise, and that's Caleb Mills.
Caleb Mills,
because
agreed.
Yeah, it's a painful hold.
It's a painful hold, but the thing is, he's playing such an important role for his team. Last week, he played against Jordan Dawson. And then in the last quarter and a half, he sat on a wing and then just rotated back. It was just ridiculous, totally selfless. And really, the Swans won the game pretty much because of him.
Yep, he was really important. I'm keen. I know MiniMonk's got some writer reply. There's two players you mentioned there I'm keen on, and it's with a 2024 lens on it. Petrarca, the question is this. In your eyes, Rids, has he done enough in this back third to half of the year to gain forward status?
Oh, geez, he must be close. He has to be close.
I think so, too.
I have a feeling this is going to be a finals type situation.
Yeah, I do too.
Similar to Bailey Smith, where he might play in the midfield in the finals that Melbourne play and lose it because of that.
I have that.
Now you look at the names, MJ, that we're losing the forward status, So CD's likely maybe even to push it towards him just so they've got a couple of bigger names.
Well, we've basically lost the top 10 forwards across the formats this year by total points and by averages. For the most part, there's one or two exceptions that I'm not saying he's a top 10 forward this year, but someone like a Bailey Smith, I'm forecasting will hold forward status. But a lot
Jack
of
McRae might,
but Taranto, Goulden, Butters, Rosie, all these Cornelio, all the guys are at the top of the tree. Sheasel, we're saying farewell to in our forward line. So it's an interesting one. And then the last one for 2024, and then I know MiniMonk's got some stuff on this game and some other thoughts. Callum Mills for 2024. A lot of early reflection of him as a super relevant guy in 2024. I've had a lot of people messaging me directly and through the coaches panel going, MJ's got to be high on the 50 most relevant, surely. And in theory, it makes sense. But can you trust, it's early call, Rids, but can you trust that he's going to give you anything other than what he's been over this past month in 2024?
I'll be absolutely honest. You've just got to put a line through him, McKay, because the fact of the matter is the guy is so selfless.
Yeah.
He does everything for his team to win a game of football.
Yeah.
He doesn't, there's that saying that I hate, that thirst saying. Like, the thing is, okay, he doesn't have it. His thirst is for the W, for the Swans to win the game of football, not for the ball.
Yeah.
And I would want to see him have that sort of thirst for the ball in a season proper game.
Sure.
before I go getting him. And I'm not saying like just neglect it. I just want to see it before I believe it with 4 points on the line.
Sure, that's fair enough.
And he's not going to go up massive price, okay,
Early
after
days.
round 1 or round 2. So you could still buy into him.
Certainly.
That's where I would be leaning towards right now.
Fair enough. And again, it's at the end of August and we're talking about decisions in March. So I know it's dangerous, but you know, what I do always appreciate about you, Rids, is you don't do a full me and you don't sit on the fence. So I appreciate that. MiniMonk, a right of reply on any of that matchup and any of the things we just mentioned there about Track or Mills?
No, I think that most of the points that Rids has made are pretty spot on, but I wouldn't be so quick to write off Mills.
Okay.
He's going to be priced at 85 in SuperCoach and 80 in AF and DT. Which
so what,
for a
30
player
points of value, potentially, in upside?
30 points of values. Yeah, exactly. For a player that has done it as recently as the season before.
Twice.
And we know that he can score that well if he has the role, because we've seen it even during this season. And it's going to be about what the Swans do in the offseason, because if they're targeting players like they're rumored to be, like Ben Mackay, they're trying to bolster those defensive stocks. Chances are it might be what Mills needs to be able to get off the chain and be able to be that, you know, absolutely explosive inside mid that we know that he can be.
All right, fair enough. Last game of the round, MiniMonk. Take us home, and then I've got a couple of last questions for you boys before we wrap up the strategy roundtable for 2023. Carlton and GWS genuinely will shape the finals this matchup. Who are you buying in this game? Because it's fascinating to me who you'd want to trade into.
I'm buying Lockie Whitfield.
Oh, okay. Talk me through this
said
one.
Him last week, and I like it this week as well. He's been looking really good. He's been criminally underrated for the season that he's actually had fantasy-wise because of how good he has been in the past and because of the quality of defenders that we've had this year.
Yes.
If we look at who we're actually going to lose for defender status for next season as well, there's a chance that he's a D1 in a draft league next year with how well he's actually gone.
Certainly.
If I'm keeping someone for this game, it's Nick Newman. It's got to be Nick Newman. He's one of the form players of the comp. He looks fantastic.
Doherty out only adds to that too.
Exactly. And speaking of Doherty, he's probably an easy one to say for a sell.
Sure.
I think an actually bolder one might be Stephen Cornelio as a sell.
I love that.
Tough matchup. He's been okay without being exceptional the last few weeks. And so I feel like you could try and get a differential that way. And if there's an avoid, it's George Hewitt.
Yeah.
You got Walsh coming back in. Yeah. We just don't know what that mid was. It's got Chera coming back in. We've got Walsh coming back in. He's the first man that's going to fall out of that midfield rotation. Just don't go there.
Or at very least have his score heavily impacted even if his rotation is that's a good shout. Rids, right of reply or something missing from MiniMonk in that game you'd like to add?
No, I'm pretty much on them. I would like to buy into Josh Kelly in this game.
Yeah.
And one that I wouldn't mind exploring trading out of this game is Tom Green. I'm not saying I would, but I would explore.
Yep. I think that's fair enough. We know Carlton are probably one of the hardest matchups from a midfield perspective rolling around. Again, Tom Green's done plenty this year to show that means nothing to him, but I certainly quite like that. And I'm very happy you mentioned my boy Josh Kelly. I think in the 10 games he's played against Carlton over his career, he's averaging 110. So I don't mind him as a shout. MiniMonk?
Yeah, and I think people might be confused. You're saying Carlton's a hard matchup for inside midfielders. Why are you saying buy into Josh Kelly? It's because Josh Kelly isn't playing just as an inside midfielder.
Correct.
He is getting a lot of his ball on the outside. And part of the reason why I recommend buying into Lockie Whitfield is because that's where Carlton let their players score, their opposition score. It's on the outside. It's on the 45s. It's on the +6s, which is what Kelly and Whitfield could do.
It's good. We'll wrap up the episode in a few minutes. Yeah, go, Rich.
Jay, one more name that I really want to think about
is
I actually think this game is set up for a Harry Himmelberg to score pretty big.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think Buckley and Taylor are going to take Curnow and McKay. I could see GWS putting a lot of speed on the ball at times.
Yes.
But I could also see them slowing it down and trying to keep the ball off Carlton at times. This is a very, very interesting game, this one.
Yeah, there's a lot on the line, not just from a fantasy destination with it being the final game of the year, but in a real life football sense. So many things. This game is going to determine a lot of people's seasons. A couple of things I want to do, and then we're going to wrap up our roundtables for 2023. If you had to put the VC on someone this week that you were like, I could get 160 plus out of him.
It feels like you can get your credit scores anywhere these days. Random websites, card statements, budgeting apps, heck, even your dog might bark out a few numbers. It's true. Credit Karma isn't the only place you can find them. But we actually do more with your scores to help you find your next financial opportunity. Like a more rewarding credit card, a game plan that helps you pay down debt faster, or a personal loan to help you save more on interest payments each month. Cha-ching! The possibilities are kinda endless. Download Intuit Credit Karma today to get started.
The caveat is it's got to be a Saturday or a Friday night game, because we know we've got those insurance policies of Sunday. And there are some decent options for C's for us on a Sunday. But if I'm looking for, find me one or two guys that you go, MJ, I'd be relatively confident that a 160 is in this person's wheelhouse of tricks, regardless of the format. Who you got for me, Rids, that's got 160 potentially written all over them?
It's amazing how sometimes there's a few funny little two games in a game around the football that are at the same time.
Yeah.
And this week we find the best VC/ZC options playing on the Saturday night.
Yeah.
And that's Adelaide versus West Coast. And we're talking about Western Bulldogs playing against Geelong.
Yeah.
So you can grab a number of names out of that hat, yeah?
True.
You can go, I want to look at Laird.
Yeah.
I want to look at Tex. I want to look at English. I want to look at Bontempelli. It just doesn't stop, MJ.
Yeah.
But as I said before, if you are really down and you really need an absolute Hail Mary, I think Shannon Hearn is every chance to be the biggest scorer out of that game.
I do too. It's a good shout. MiniMonk, again, Saturday or Friday night, looking for a 160, and you'd feel pretty confident about it. Riz has basically monopolised Saturday night football. So try to maybe help us find something a little bit earlier in the round in case a coach does want to take a jump on some of those Saturday night games.
I might try and just list off one option from each of the other four games. It's
Please.
a little bit unique to go for.
Okay.
Collingwood versus Essendon. If you're going to go for him and you're going to go wild, I think Josh Dacos is actually a very sneaky VC option.
I like it.
Hawthorn v Fremantle. I would consider taking the punt on Andrew Brayshaw.
Yeah.
Hawthorn, I believe, is a really good team for him for matchups, and he can run and find space, and he'll run back to get a lot of +6s as well, so I wouldn't mind that.
Yep.
North versus Gold Coast. You want to have some fun? VC Harry Sheasel.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And then the last game, last of those four, Brisbane versus St Kilda. I think this might be the hardest one to pick a VC from, but then you've got to go for the person who's had the ceiling before. It's Josh Dunkley.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a VC option, those are the four I'd look at in those four games.
All right. Fair enough. And then, boys, one last question for you. For coaches that are in their final weekend, rankings is the focus. What's one last bit of advice you give them? We know it's only a handful of coaches now across the formats. It's dozens of coaches total across all three coaches that could genuinely claim they're a live chance at winning the grand prize of Dream Team, SuperCoach, or AFL Fantasy. For the rare few that are there, I know, Rids, you've been there and won Dream Team just a few years ago, and MiniMonk, you've been inches away from winning multiple of these formats as well. What's some advice you'd give coaches as they enter into this final week of fantasy footy, as they hope to lift up the cup and be the number one player in that rank and in that format for the season? MiniMonk?
Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the last week. Explore the opportunities. And try and have some good memories about being there because, I was second last year in Dream Team.
Yeah.
I was close to winning it, but I enjoyed every second of it, even though I didn't end up winning. So it's a good opportunity just to take as much out of it as you can.
Some good advice, Rids. What about for you, man? For a coach that's trying to win it all and is a genuine live chance, what's some advice as they head into the final 9 games of the year?
I know there's a lot of like a large percentage of the community these days that don't actually watch the game and they watch the score.
Yep.
That's okay. That's fine. You know what I mean? Like that's the new age coach that does that. It's cool. Not a problem. But the problem is that it often leads to many highs and lows throughout the game, throughout the quarter. Like if your man doesn't score for 10 minutes, you start getting nervous, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
But the fact is, if you're not watching the game, he might be stuck on the bench and the ball might have been on the other side of the ground.
100%.
Just take a bit of time, have a mental health round. That's hard to do, I know, but the hard work's done. All you got to do is switch on for 5 minutes before the games just to make sure that there's no laid outs along the way, and give yourself a mental health break because this game is bloody hard work, especially following it with the scores through 9 games of a round for 24 rounds of a year.
Yep.
And you think about someone like our mate Matty Mottram, okay, who's been in contention for 2 years in a row. That's a lot of mental stress, Sometimes you need to just check out, go watch a game of football and forget the scores. Just do yourself a favor, go for a walk, go spend time with the family. What will be, yeah?
Yep.
You've already done the trades. You can't, you're not out there taking marks and kicking the ball for these guys and making tackles. You don't have to live like you are.
Yep.
That's my number one massive rule.
Yep.
Just take a bit of pressure off yourself.
Some really good advice from both of you guys. Again, maybe for some that wasn't what they think was coming from you both, but I think it's some beautiful thoughts from you. We'll wrap up the episode in just a moment. If maybe you're wondering, well, what's next for the coaches panel? What's to come? Here's the thing. Over the next couple of weeks, you get a wrap-up podcast where we'll kind of look club by club at 2023 and give you kind of our 2023 fantasy footy awards, and you'll even pick up some nuggets about who we might be looking at for 2024. That's to come over the next couple of weeks. Louis is going to be back on one of the episodes soon. He's got a way too early 2024 cash cow watch list. He has been dying to do this episode for you, and we can't wait for you to share that. And Rids, you might remember a couple of weeks ago when we had Matty Mottram on, alluded to the fact that not only is Matt going to be part of the coaches panel in 2024, but he's been working behind the scenes with a number of coaches, AFL Fantasy specifically, and we'll have a real deep dive, not so much of a 2023 in review, but rather kind of drawing out some of the learnings of how to maximize playing the game. A lot of old school DTers and old school super coaches that have picked up AFL Fantasy over the last year, 2 or 3 have recognized it's a very, very different game, needs to be played a different way. And maybe you've just had a rubbish couple of seasons in AF and feel like, man, am I doing this wrong? Rids has got a great conversation that's going to happen with some very successful fantasy coaches that's going to help you. That is coming for everyone in the fantasy community. If you keep listening to this podcast and you get this off your podcast stream, wherever you listen, you'll get those. For our Patreons, in October and November, Kane will be back on the podcast with myself, and we're going to give you our top 50 keeper ranks, tier by tier. So if you're a keeper league coach, you'll get an episode every single week. That will be coming for Patreons and Spotify podcast subscribers only. So if you are a keeper league coach, you do not want to miss those. And then by then, my friends, it's December. What's coming in December? We're going to start talking positions, prices as things start landing. And then very, very quickly from January 1, we're back with the 50 most relevant, who I think are the most relevant players across all of your fantasy footy season. You will get daily episodes, articles, and maybe some videos rolling through. And we have only just kickstarted the 2024 preseason. So plenty to make sure you stick around over the next couple of weeks and months as we help you reflect on the year that's been, learn how to improve in 2024, and then to start casting your eye to the year that is ahead. Rids, my friend, it has been a pleasure for what will be next year, our 10th year as the coaches panel. Can you believe that?
What a way to celebrate, yeah?
Yeah.
We're splitting it into AF and SuperCoach separate pods.
In the season, yep.
This is going to be a bit of a fun time next year, I reckon.
Looking forward to it. And the good news is it'll all come through this same feed. So you're not going to have to subscribe or go off somewhere else. So some of the names you've known and loved over the past 10 years, you're going to continue to see them. And there'll be some new voices. Maybe you've heard and seen them around the community. You'll see them come through the coaches panel next year because you are going to get more podcasts from us than ever before. And you'll even get videos from us next year. And we might even just keep writing articles because you know what? Why the heck not? We'll keep them going. But Rids, as always, mate, a pleasure to do another fantasy season with you, my friend.
I'm going to leave you on this point of gold.
Yes.
Okay. And this is what you're going to look for coming up. Okay. Now, all the old time dream teamers out there and everything else that are trying to play AFL fantasy, I'm just going to sum it up in 2 lines.
This is good.
Okay. RDT, Dream Team, rewards uniqueness and patience. AF actually punishes it. Okay. And I'll explain that further later.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a podcast in and of itself. Looking forward to hearing that. MiniMonk, you've been a long time follower of the coaches panel. It has been an absolute privilege of ours to have you join the team officially this year. We joke about you being the Harry Sheezel of the fantasy footy community, but it's actually genuinely true. You have helped not just thousands of coaches that have listened to the coaches panel with you this year, but you've been very, very generous with your time with a lot of other content creators. You're a phenomenal human being. We love having you a part of the team, and we want to thank you for your advice that you've given thousands upon thousands of coaches this year, mate. Well done.
It's been wonderful to be able to share a lot of the experiences that I've had last year as well as this year and a lot of the learnings. I'll be continuing to do that. I'll put out some more writing over the off season to keep myself occupied when we're not doing too many podcasts, and I'll be back and ready to go for 2024 with some more content with you guys.
Absolutely. And lastly, to everybody that's a part of the coaches panel, there is like a dozen of team members that many of them you don't see or hear them on the podcast. A lot of them are working behind the scenes, supporting on the website, supporting on our social media, supporting and sharing information with our Patreons. There is an absolute ton of them. Jimmy, Fish, Ben, Jordox, Louis. I'm going to forget names here and going to get in so much trouble with them when they get involved with that. Matt, who else am I forgetting on here? Please let me know. Shout out. Tim, how could I forget him? The Fox. Yes, you don't hear him very often, but he still slides in every now and again to be able to help us out. If I have forgotten your name, please forgive me if you are a part of the team. There is a team of absolute superstars that help us create this podcast, articles, and the social media content. But really, the biggest thank you is to you. Thank you every single week for listening, for subscribing, for following along the journey. We hoped it's helped. Made your 2024 season absolute fantastic is where it'll be next year. And if the 2023 has been not so great, we'll get you to a fantastic 2024. If it's been great this year, don't worry. We'll be right here for you with podcasts, articles, and plenty of social media content. So if to you listening, Thank you for supporting us, to our Patreons especially. You are the absolute legends that help us do what we do every single week in the fantasy footy community. Good luck in round 24. Gosh, that feels weird saying 24. It's been 23 for so long. Good luck in round 24. We hope everything works out for you. And for the final time in 2023, from a strategy roundtable from us to you, good luck, and we'll see you soon.